What is going on, Alabama football fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. Appreciate you guys joining us here on today's video. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about Ty Simpson. And, there's a lot of quotes coming out from Kalen, DeBoer, from, guys on this team as well. And it really does sound like Ty Simpson is the guy that is winning this team over right now. And that is one of the biggest things in terms of selecting a quarterback who is going to lead you in this 2025 season. Also, on the back half of today's show, Alabama had 11 players that were selected on the preseason All-SEC team. Only a couple of guys were on the first team, a couple guys on the second team and third team as well. So we're going to break all that down on today's video. But first, Chat Sports CEO here, James Yoder, has been going through a bunch of our analytics. And, he messaged me this morning, was like, hey, man, you guys need to get at least 400 likes on today's video. If you want to keep putting out videos here, if you want more studio time, you got to get at least 400 likes on today's video. So help me out. We want to continue to put out videos for you guys. Keep you guys updated on all things Alabama football related, whether that's recruiting or whether that's fall camp that is actually going to be starting next week. So any news or rumors that comes out of fall camp, we will keep you guys updated on that. But help me out. Help us keep our studio time here at Chat Sports and like today's video. All right, so recently some Alabama players have come out and really expressed a lot of, loyalty and, just excitement for Ty Simpson going into this 2025 season. And really does seem like, from the comments made by Kalen, DeBoer, and Ryan Grubb during spring practice and then at SEC Media Day that really this quarterback competition, it started as, Ty Simpson and Austin Mack and Keelon Russell, all those guys really vying for, that quarterback one spot. As of this point, it really does seem like Ty Simpson is the guy that is going to be leading this Alabama team next year. And, he came out yesterday and he posted a video on his Instagram page, and I really just love the mentality that this kid brings to the football field in his preparation and, hopefully going to be leading the Crimson Tide this year. He said, when I get on the field, Alabama fans should know that I'm going to do everything it takes to win. I'm going to make sure that I am the toughest guy on the field. I'm going to make sure that I win. I'm going to make sure that I know everything that's coming. I'm going to get the guys around me the football. That's a big thing, too. You got to be able to get your playmakers the ball. That's something that Alabama definitely struggled with last year as well. That's really, I think, how you want your quarterback to feel. That mentality. You want them to have that dog mentality. One of the biggest things as well, I think from that quote in particular, that really did stick out to me was the part where he said, I'm going to make sure that I know everything that's coming. I think that is something that, Jalen Milroe in the past couple of seasons really did struggle with. It wasn't always the offensive line's fault, last season when Jalen Milroe was taking sacks or, he didn't have time, had to pull the ball down and end up running instead of getting the ball to some of those other playmakers. I think he struggled with, sometimes you look back to some of those games where they struggled, the Oklahoma game, the South Florida game, where they came with a lot of different type of, exotic blitzes. You could kind of see, maybe I'm guessing here, but you could kind of see where it looked like he was audibling, maybe, for example, shifting the offensive line protection to the left side, but then the blitz came from the right side, and he had to roll out pretty much as soon as he got the football, and he wasn't able to look downfield. You also think back to Ty Simpson a couple years ago in 2023. He played, a quarter and a half, something like that, against South Florida, and he was sacked 5 times in that game. It's definitely going to be something that Alabama and Ty Simpson, whoever ends up being the quarterback for Alabama this season, they have to do a better job of knowing what's coming, being able to predict that, helping your offensive line and your running backs out a lot in terms of some of that protection. Because if we just go into this season yet again with, constant pressure on the quarterback, I don't think it's going to be very good for Alabama. But like I said, there is a lot of hype right now, and hopefully Ty Simpson can do that and be better at that than Jalen Milroe was last year, and then even Ty was 2 years ago when he ended up playing a little bit against South Florida. Fall practice does start next week, and the biggest question is who is going to be the starter for Alabama. I think the second biggest question is when are they actually going to announce the starter? Is that going to be, I really don't think it's going to end up being, kind of like those Nick Saban teams where you didn't know who was going to be the quarterback until that guy trotted out there on the field after Alabama got their ball in the first game of the season. I think we're going to end up finding out who's going to be Alabama's quarterback probably the week of the game. I do think it's going to be before the game, and I do have a prediction on who's going to break the news as well. I'm going to say it's Chris Lowe of ESPN because pretty much every massive Alabama story that comes out, whether that's a starting quarterback, whether that's injury news, or whether that's Nick Saban retiring, Chris Lowe is pretty much always the guy. When it comes to massive Alabama breaking news, Chris Lowe is the one that breaks that news. So I do think it's going to be before. And I don't think anybody actually asked Kalen DeBoer at SEC Media Day when, is the right time to announce a starter. Well, we also do an Ohio State channel here as well. And, our guy Tom Downey, who's the host of that, actually got this quote from Ryan Day, was asked the exact same thing between Lincoln Kienholz and Julian Sayin in their quarterback battle. He was asked, when is the right time to announce a quarterback decision? He said, I've never really had a feel for when the right time is. I think that it's important for the locker room to believe in whoever that is. I think that, for me, being a quarterback and being around, when the locker room believes in a guy, that's the right time. If the locker room it doesn't believe in one, then you have to keep trying to give them opportunities for someone to grab onto the team. And I think that leads directly into this quote from Deontae Lawson on ABC 3340 yesterday. He said, Ty Simpson is definitely going to be the guy right now. He is an established vet, hasn't seen that much playing time on the field, but I'm sure he's ready to embrace the opportunity and lead our team to where we need to be. To me, that sounds like the team is really grasping on to Ty Simpson being the quarterback for Alabama next season. And when you just also look at, or read some of those quotes from Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb and this Alabama coaching staff, Ty Simpson's the one that was, consistently moving the ball downfield, moving the chains, and also just keeping the ball in your players' hands as well, not turning the ball over. That's going to be a massive thing for Alabama and Ty Simpson this season. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video, how many touchdowns will Ty Simpson have in 2025? Passing and rushing all combined in total. Let me know what you guys think down at the pinned comment of today's video. All right, one thing that's kind of funny with just like looking through Ty Simpson's stats, he has not played that much throughout his career, but the passing, I think, is one of the biggest question marks for Ty Simpson right now. And he was about 58% on his career, I believe is what that shakes out to. Doesn't have a passing touchdown yet, but also doesn't have an interception yet either. So when he's getting in the game, in the past, he was at least taking care of the ball. And you can appreciate that, I think. I think one thing that is very underrated with Ty Simpson's game, though, is his ability to run the ball. A lot of people really compare Ty Simpson to Mack Jones. I don't really think that's a fair comparison for Ty Simpson. I think, it's kind of, he's another white quarterback that waited a long time to start is kind of the reason everybody kind of goes that route. But Ty Simpson is way more athletic than what Mack Jones ever was, and we've only got glimpses of that. But you see right there, that 78-yard long. He's got 3 touchdowns on the ground rushing as well. And, the one snafu that he had, I think it was against Mercer 2 years ago, when he had that 78-yard run, dropped the ball right before the end zone, rolls through the back of the end zone. So technically does have a fumble, but it's not listed in the stats as a fumble, so don't really get that there. But another learning experience. He got his ass chewed out by Nick Saban for that. So I think people are going to see Ty Simpson run the ball a whole lot more this season than they think is going to happen. But at the same time, it's not going to be that same thing where you saw Jalen Milroe last year run the ball 1,000 times and take all those carries away from the running backs. I think they're just kind of going to mix it in, and I think he's going to do a, pretty decent job when he's running the ball, scrambling, just extending plays as well. I think that's going to help Alabama out a whole lot this season. All right, we'll continue with the conversation here in just a second, but first, want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. You guys can get this Columbia Polo, game day polo, $40 right now. On sale was $70, so you're getting $30 off right now. Just go to chatsports.com/BamaPFG because it's the Columbia PFG polo there. Really, breathable types of shirts from Columbia. So it's going to be hot at the very beginning of the season. So that's a solid polo to wear. It's not going to, keep you really hot inside. So you guys can go over to chatsports.com/BamaPFG. Get that polo right now for only $40. It's on sale. Was $70, so very, very good time to get that. I'll put that link down in the comment section and the description of today's video. All right, another thing that's really, becoming a positive thing, I think, about this Alabama team, a narrative that just continues to, show up, is the fact that this team is really, really close. They are bonding right now in the offseason, and, I think it might be one of the closest Alabama teams that we've seen since maybe those Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts type of teams. They really did stick together when, Tua took over for Jalen and Jalen stayed that extra year, ended up burning his season, or his redshirt season that year, playing more than 4 games. I think, that really did bring that team together a lot, and that is a recipe for success. We mentioned yesterday all the experience that Alabama has coming back. Just on defense alone, they have 13 players that played over 200 snaps last season. These guys have been in the trenches together, and they have built that chemistry. And, they have felt the lows. They haven't really felt very much highs. They went through the, coaching transition, and then they end up losing 4 games to pretty mediocre teams last year. So I think there's just this reinvigorated, excitement for this Alabama team going into next season. And Ty Simpson also touched on this as well, just kind of talking about the team chemistry, which he's been a leader of that too. He cooks for the team a lot. He goes out there and, he has taken the team hunting multiple times, whether that's pig hunting, rabbit hunting, bird hunting, whatever it is. These guys are really close and they are staying together. Ty Simpson saying, one thing about our team that I feel like we are just so close. Nobody feels like they're bigger than the team. Nobody feels like it's all about them. And if somebody doesn't do their job, it is all on us. I think last year, there was some accountability issues for Alabama. Hopefully going into this season, they can do a little bit better job of that. I do want to play devil's advocate a little bit here for just a second. We have heard this narrative before, though. As much as I love guys like Tyler Booker, he was a massive leader for Alabama the last couple of seasons. He kind of said the same exact things as Ty Simpson did as well. We talked about guys locking in. He talked about being relentless, just being a dog on the field. But when they went out there on the field last year, a lot of times it didn't really show up and it just wasn't very consistent. So, while I am excited about this season, I am going to be very cautious because I always fall into this trap of buying the preseason hype, buying the talk that these players are, talking about. And, I love how these guys have, this head down, work first mentality. They're not going out there and, talking all this crap like some of these other teams are to the media. But all this talk means absolutely nothing unless they go out there and show it on the field on Saturdays. I think this team, with all the veteran leadership they have, Deontae Lawson, Damani Jackson, Tim Keenan, Jaden Roberts, Kadyn, Proctor, the list goes on and on and on. They know that. They have lived this already. They went through the fire last season, going through the coaching transition, losing to very subpar teams last year. They know what's on the line. My hope is that, they can take that same formula that both Michigan and Ohio State took the past couple of seasons to, just retain their roster and retain some of those veteran, leaders on the team to just move forward and, become a better team. And hopefully they can make a run at a national championship this year and end up winning Kalen DeBoer's first national championship in his career as well. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. Fall practice is starting next week, and we'll definitely have videos and updates for you guys on that as well. So do not miss out. We'll also have our watch parties this year, which are always a whole lot of fun. Hopefully we'll also have a producer for me for those watch parties. So double dose of, action for us here cheering on the Crimson Tide. So do not miss out. Make sure you guys hit that sub button. It's always for free right here at the Alabama Football Report. All right, last thing on today's video. Alabama had 11 players that were selected to the preseason All-SEC team, and they only had a couple of guys that were on the first team, but I do think, just all the guys that we're going to talk about here, they're going to be massive leaders on this team for Alabama as well. Talk about the first team, All-SEC preseason team right here. You have Kadyn Proctor and you have Ryan Williams. If Ryan Williams was eligible to go to the NFL draft this year, he would probably be, a top 10 pick, I would assume, just kind of depending on need and everything like that. Definitely be a first-round pick. Kadyn Proctor has a very good opportunity as well to be a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft. He just continues to improve. His first year had some ups and downs, had a lot of struggles, and his second year had the injury issues at the beginning of the year, but then ended up playing a whole lot better down the stretch as well. So got a lot of confidence in Kadyn Proctor going into year 3 with Alabama. Second team offense, you had Jaden Roberts and Parker Brailsford. I think that just speaks to that's 3 guys already along the offensive line for Alabama that has made the preseason All-SEC team. And, hopefully Jaden Roberts can continue to just stay healthy this year. I think he also has the ability to, be a day 2 pick at least in next year's NFL draft. And Parker Brailsford is on that same track as well. Going on to the third team, All-SEC offensive team here, you also have Jam Miller, who, hopefully going into this season, he's going to probably get more touches than he did last year with Jalen Milroe, not on the team anymore. He's going to get those reps. You're also going to have guys like, Daniel Hill and Richard Young get reps as well. But I think Jam Miller really does bring something a little bit different to this Alabama running back room. He's got that burst, but he could also catch the ball out of the backfield. We've seen him, against Georgia. He has had multiple touchdown grabs as well. So really do like Jam Miller being there on the third team as well. And then let's go over to the defensive side of the ball as well. No first team players for Alabama on defense, which, I think they're going to end up proving some people wrong on this. I think they're going to have a really, really good defense this year. Tim Keenan, LT Overton, Deontae Lawson, Damani Jackson, all those guys that we've been talking about who just have a ton of experience, those guys are going to be really, really good this year. And then I think what might be one of the best safety duos, maybe not just in the SEC, but maybe the entire country as well. Keelon Sabb and Bray Hubbard both on that third team defense. I think just going into year 2 in this Kane Womack system, these guys are going to be a whole lot more comfortable. They're going to have a better understanding of what they're going to end up doing. I think that communication as well is going to be a whole lot better. So just all in all, I'm very, very excited about this season. But at the same time, I'm going to temper my expectations and just hope that all this talk that these players are doing, they're going to go out there and really show it on the field on Saturdays as well.